This is literally how my background looks like. Yeah. Sorry for sharing. Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Trix and today I want to talk about growing up as a third culture kid and what that means and how that experience was for me. I think it's an interesting topic. I have followed a lot of other YouTubers, bigger YouTubers, whom have talked about this phenomena of being a third culture kid, and I want to give my perspective on this and what it means to me and what I have learned about it and some struggles it has caused me, but also some strength it has I have developed due to being a third culture kid, and I want also to talk about some of the racism I have faced due to being who I am in the country where I'm living, and yeah, that's what we're going to talk about today. So, first of all, we need to answer the question, what is a third culture kid? Um, I have done some research, and the most common description is just from Wikipedia, and it says a kid that grows up uh, between cultures, meaning if they have parents from another country, then the country the kid grows up in, and then they develop a third culture due to the parents' country and their own country where they grew up. So in my case, it is my mom is from India, and she also has some heritage from Portugal. So she's from India, more specifically from Goa, where most Portuguese Indians are from. And my dad is from Sweden. That means I'm mixed ethnicity. I don't know why I did this. I am mixed ethnicity. And I grew up in Sweden, where my dad's from, but I still have the culture of my mom. She has been very thoughtful of bringing in her culture and her country into my childhood and my life in a very good way, that does not take away from the Swedish now the phone is ringing. That at the same time doesn't take away from the Swedish traditions. My mom has been very it was important to her that I know my heritage, but at the same time that we lived with the Swedish tradition as well. And I'm very thankful today that she brought that into my life early on, and that I had contact with my relatives in India and learned English early on in life, even though we didn't spoke English at home or something. It was mostly Swedish, but I ended up learning English quite naturally due to my relatives speaking with me and stuff, even if I never really spoke due to my autism. But I understand that I can, you can be with someone even if you don't always have the language. But I ended up learning English, and she integrated the Indian culture to my Swedish upbringing, and I think it was a very beautiful thing now in the end. However, I didn't always thought about it in that regard. I hated being mixed ethnicity when I was younger, and I had an identity crisis early on when I was a kid, and I will talk more about that now. Um, so while there is many great things about being mixed and many things my parents did right, I can't blame them for my identity crisis and for my the racism I endured from others. That's not on my parents, but I will talk about it because it's important. So to summarize, um, to summarize what I have said to this point in this video, my mom is from India, my dad is from Sweden. I have grown up between the countries or in Sweden, but with my Indian heritage, and I have developed a third culture due to that, being a third culture kid. And what I mean by developing a third culture is just what this phenomena is about. It is taking your parents' country and the country you grow up in which is different from each other, and then making a blend of those countries, and that is being the third culture. So now I will go in on the racism I faced and the identity crisis I had. So the identity crisis and the racism goes hand in hand. I experienced an identity crisis due to the racism, and I think the racism was what started my identity crisis, to be honest, because I didn't think so much about that I had multiple ethnicities and that I was multilingual and that I had a certain family dynamic due to the different cultures until I started school and people started to tell me that you're not a real Swede, or you're not Swedish enough, or you're not Swedish, you're not entirely Swedish. And I felt like I didn't belong because people was frequently telling me that I wasn't a real Swede. I wasn't a real Swedish person because I wasn't white and because I wasn't born with one parent and another parent from Sweden. Both my parents weren't from Sweden, so I was clearly not Swedish enough. And when I was in India, it was the same thing, but in reverse. I wasn't Indian enough. I wasn't a real Indian person because I had a Swedish parent as well. So my identity crisis was born from that I was thinking, where do I belong? Where do I belong, and which country can I see as mine? Because in Sweden, the racist people said, go home to your country, which is pretty peculiar because I was born in Lidköping in Sweden, so I was born in Sweden. So I can't really go home if I'm already there. And in India, they didn't really tell me to go home anywhere, but they insinuated that I wasn't one of them either. So I felt like I didn't have a home country, even though I'm a Swedish citizen. I didn't knew as a kid, where do I belong? Now I'm quite comfortably saying that I'm Swedish, but I have Indian heritage. And if someone would tell me today, you're not entirely Swedish, I would say that's not up to you to decide. If I'm not fully Swedish, if I'm not Swedish enough, that's not up to anyone else but me to decide. I know my sister, she is more Swedish than me. She is very Swedish in her manners and in her personhood, and nobody can take that away from her, even though she's looking more Indian than me. Actually, she is darker, has darker hair, and I know I have dark hair, but she has almost so black hair that it's almost blue. So and very dark eyes as well. I have dark brown hair. That doesn't even matter, because I mean, it's not up to others to decide what country someone else belongs in. It's my thing to decide for myself. I can't change my ethnicity, that's true, but if I feel like I belong, where I feel like I belong, there I am. Now, when I have grown up and I'm thinking about my childhood, I think I had a very diverse childhood, and I think I had a rich childhood because of my parents, that they weren't from the same country. I traveled a lot as a kid, so I'm very privileged in that. And I visited India and Portugal as well, but mostly India when I was little, and I got that perspective as well as the Swedish perspective, and I consider myself lucky today that I was going through the things I was going through, because if I hadn't gone through the racism I faced, I wouldn't know for certain who I am today. One example of racism that I think is very overlooked is exotification. Many people tend to see me as something exotic. They see me almost as this exotic fruit or something, or animal, even worse. And they get curious, but in a bad way. They see me almost as something else than them. And I remember dating a guy, and he admitted just like that I was one thing on his bucket list. He wanted to date a girl or sleep with a girl who wasn't white, or he had slept with someone who was black and someone who was many white girls, but never ever a mixed race girl, as he put it, or someone like me. So I was just something on the bucket list, and I felt like I was like a commodity and like a trophy almost, but in a very bad way. It's like women get objectified as it is, but this is a whole new level of objectification, and that is racist, even though people don't seem to see it that way. And even the thing like asking someone, where are you from, and insisting on me answering them, and they feel entitled to know, that is racist as well. It's not like being hate crimed, but it's still racist. Some people ask me, where are you from in Sweden? And I'm I almost always just, instead of explaining everything, I say that I'm from Lidköping, because that's the city where I was born. And they get confused because I don't look very Swedish, or I don't look entirely Swedish. But some people are very stubborn. They want to know and they feel entitled to know. And I would give this advice to people of all ethnicities, but especially white people. You're not entitled to know where someone is from. You just don't. And that's the same the other way around. I'm not entitled to where someone else is from. So, I mean, it's a two-way street. It's not just about me, it's about you as well. And I think we should be a little bit more compassionate and not be so quick to judge. Another thing I want to touch on in this video, I will probably make more videos about this topic. But something I want to touch a little bit on is making stereotypes of people. When I say my mother is from India, all people assume I know everything about India. All people assume, or most people I have talked with, almost 100%, assume that I know Hindi, the Indian language. And the thing is, I don't, because most Indian people speak English, and I'm brought up with English, and I'm trying to learn a little bit Hindi just for my own personal gain, but sometimes I can't help to wonder if I'm learning Hindi just to be as I should be, or what other people expect from me, or if I'm doing it because I want to. I know it is to reclaim my identity for the most part, but sometimes I feel like I'm doing it just because other people expect me to know Hindi. And also when I'm telling people where my mother is from and where I have heritage from, it feels like people are quick to look at me and say, you don't look very Indian, or you're very white to be Indian. Some people have said that. And or they say, do you know in India the cows are on the street, right? Cows are holy, and yes, for Hindu people, cows are holy and they actually walk on the street. But what has that to do with me? And people just throw random facts at me as that they know about India, and I feel like I'm just an entertainer at that point, or an entertaining thought. And I feel like maybe we should let people speak about their countries and not just throw random facts about it on people. Maybe we should let people explain things from their point of view and educate, and and not make everything about ourselves, because it always is about what others know about that country. And I think it's kind of annoying. It annoys me when people try to make everything about Bollywood, for example, or I personally, I'm not a fan of Bollywood, and people raise their eyebrows and think like, well, you're half Indian, you need to know about Bollywood, and I don't. And you need to know about their language, and I know just a little tiny bit. And you need to sound Indian in your accent, but I'm sounding Swedish, so I'm not supposed to be anything. I'm supposed to be Trisha or Trix as I go online. I mean, I'm not supposed to be anything else than that. And growing up as a third culture kid can be very hard when dealing with these assumptions all the time, and you're never only a person, you are a concept of a person. And I think we need to work on that and let people speak and be more able to listen. I know this video was kinda rambly, and I hope it made sense for the most part. And this was actually all I had for this time, and I hope to continue this conversation in another video, because it's important to me, and I'm sure it's important to other people as well. So see you in a week or so. Bye.